Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the May Electoral Area Services Committee meeting. Call the meeting to order. And first thing up, I'd like to offer a warm welcome to Patty Makahonic, who's the alternate director filling in for Director Angar. So welcome, Patty. Patty's been very involved in community issues in the city of Chilliwack for what, 25 years or? And I'll turn things over to our CAO.
Thank you, Chair Dickey. So the first item is your report on the Regional and Corporate Services Committee meeting held this morning.
Thank you. So we had lengthy discussions this morning. First up was the Freedom of Information legislation changes, where the province is allowing local governments to create a $10 charge for applications on freedom of information, and directors made the point that there's a need to find a balance between the need for openness at local governments levels and the ability to control the amount of staff time which freedom of information requests bring about. So I believe as it is right now, there's no charge in the first 3 hours of staff time, and then there's a minimal charge afterwards. And staff made the point of that since the legislation first came into place, that the volume of demands for information is multiplied by 4 times. Is that correct, staff? Yeah.
Chair Dickey, it's since we've been recording.
Okay. Yeah. So that was all accepted by the RACS committee this morning. We went on to talk about an amendment to the procedures bylaw, which would change the board meetings to 6 o'clock in the evening rather than 7 o'clock. And some of the directors voiced concerns that this might be problematic for some of the directors who live further away from the office. So that will come up at the board meeting and people will be given an opportunity to speak to it. Then we talked about the UNDRIP legislation. This was an information item. Director Horn voiced his support for the process and was encouraging for the FERD to move forward with United Nations declaration. The Chair Lum and Director Stobart made the point that it's important that the Fraser Valley Regional District exercise some caution in rolling this out and to look to the province for direction in the procedures and process. And finally, Director Horn voiced support for the UBCM resolution on orphan dikes, and he mentioned that he planned on getting together with Director Davidson regarding the issue and the Hatzick Lake area. So Director Davidson might want to be aware of that. And I think that's pretty much sums up what we talked about at RACS this morning. Turn things back to Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you. So looking at item 3, which is approval of the agenda, addenda, and late items.
Okay, looking for motion, Director Stobart, second Director Adamson. Any discussions? Seeing none, all in favor? Contrary, the motion carries.
Next is 4.1, which is the draft Electoral Area Services Committee meeting minutes of April 14th, 2022.
Okay, looking for a motion. Move Director Adamson, second Director Bales. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
5.1 is a motion for which notice has been given, and I understand that Director Bales actually has a different motion from what is printed on the agenda, so I'll just have staff put that one up on the screen.
Yeah, that's right.
Good. So you'd like to move that, Director Bales?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder. Second Director Adamson. Any discussion?
Davidson.
Go ahead, Director Davidson.
Thank you, Chair. So there's a lot of concern in my area too about recent land clearing activity. And my takeaway from it all is that in my own sort of interpretation of the looking at the Right to Farm Act, and from speaking to staff in the past, is that essentially that if you can farm, you can basically clear everything, even right to the water line on a salmon bearing stream. And I'm expecting that applies certainly to any property within the ALR, but I'm also suspecting that it also applies to any property where general agricultural use is a permitted use for that zone, even though it might not be in the ALR. So I am very interested in this, but I'm just wondering if staff had any initial observations on this. And the other sort of factor that comes into this one as well, of course, is the fire smart activities. While I'd normally support any area director's ability to represent their community to their utmost, this particular one, if it's going to create a barrier for people to fire smart their homes in some way, I'd be quite concerned as that area F does share the same fire service with part of area C. So there is an overlap of interest there. But anyway, so I would like to hear sort of staff's initial take on right to farm and how it intersects with tree bylaws. Thank you, Chair.
Good. Thank you, Director Davidson. I'll look to Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Davidson. You're quite right. Regional districts do have slightly different powers than municipalities when it comes to tree bylaws and somewhat more restricted powers. And that notwithstanding anything to do with the ALR, but perhaps I'll just turn things over to our Director of Planning and Development, Graham Danilus, and he could speak more on the powers of a regional district and when it comes to tree bylaws.
Thank you. Through the chair. It certainly is the case that regional districts don't have the same kind of powers that municipalities have when it comes to tree bylaws. And we would need to have a good understanding of what the objectives are for tree bylaws in order to make sure we're using the best tools available under the Local Government Act. And again, the best tools will, I think, flow from a good understanding of what the objectives that we're trying to achieve with the bylaw are. With respect to farmlands, I suspect that local governments wouldn't be able to impede farming by adopting bylaws that protect trees on agricultural lands. And if the trees are being removed from land in the ALR and the purpose is to use the land for farming, then I believe that would likely be a protected practice that we couldn't get at with our own bylaws, but that would be something that needs further investigation and understanding. Those are simply initial comments.
Good.
Quick follow-up, Chair.
Yep, please.
Thank you. That's great for now, Mr. Danilus. Just if this motion does go through, again, I'd also be interested in the non-ALR zones as well, where general agriculture is a permitted use. Does the same kind of concept apply there as well? Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Director Davidson. And I also would be very interested in that discussion. I always understood that ALR lands were subject to right to farm legislation, which did not allow local governments to govern tree cutting, but for properties that aren't in the ALR, even though they're being used for farming, I didn't think that applied, but to be interesting to hear a legal opinion on just where the law falls on that. Good.
Can I
And
speak? Oh,
go ahead, Director Beal.
there is not much ALR in Area C, and mostly the main concern is from Harrison Mills, where there's a lot of eagle and bird habitat, and so there's a lot of interest there, and yeah, so that's pretty much it, but yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Director Bales. So we'll look forward to a legal opinion on just where we stand on this issue.
No, Mr. Chair, if I may just interject. Each electoral area does not have a budget for legal opinions. So I just wanted to remind the committee that the way that this motion has written is with respect to electoral area C. your voting in favor of this means that it will be coming out of the EA admin budget, which there is available funds. But to expand it beyond electoral area C and to address any concerns that might be in some of your electoral areas, it might be more practical to just have the legal opinion about establishing tree bylaws within electoral areas more generically.
Good. Thank you for that advice, Ms. Kinnaman. Any discussion regarding, yep, Director Dixon, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'm just wondering about the scope of this. I realize this is to obtain a legal opinion, but I'm not really sure. Are we talking about every property, in this case in Area C, or if it went for all FVRD, is this private property? Are we talking about if a developer wants to come in and put in a subdivision with 100 homes? To me, that's quite different than somebody owning private property. And so I'm just kind of wondering what the scope is. And yeah, I had a question about funding and you just answered that.
Okay, good. Thank you, Director Dixon. So staff, I think Director Dixon has a question about the scope of this inquiry.
Through the chair to Director Dixon, I would suggest that perhaps the mover of the motion should probably speak to what the scope should be.
I had put it down as Area C because I was worried that other areas wouldn't want it. So I thought having it as Area C, they can piggyback onto it and pick up the motion. But if it's better for electoral areas, as long as you're not attached to it. As
Okay.
long as you're not attached to it, I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you, Director Bales. So is there appetite amongst other directors to address this question in your electoral areas, or is this something people would prefer that it become an electoral area C issue?
Davidson?
Go ahead, Director Davidson.
So yeah, the motion as written is really just about getting a legal opinion, which to me is information gathering. And it is information that would be relevant to Area F, absolutely. So I'd be surprised if there's something, whether the scope is for just Area C or for all electoral areas. To me, it seems likely that the information gathered in this legal opinion would be equally valuable either way. And given that the funding source is the same, to me, it makes sense to just reword the motion to say, instead of within electoral area C, to say within electoral areas and call it a day. There's to Director Bales' points, there's absolutely nothing binding a subsequent bylaw or not from being restricted to one or more or electoral areas as deemed appropriate by the board.
Good. Thank you, Director Davidson. Any other discussion, Director Adamson?
I would agree with Director Davison that this is information we could all use. I know that Area B, we don't have a tree bylaw, and it's not really a problem unless somebody clear cuts, and then everybody wants one. But it's rare, but it'd be good to have the information to know whether we should do one or not, and so I could inform my citizens, see what they think. So I'm in favor of it.
Good. Thank you, Director Adamson. So staff, can you give us any idea as to what this limits of such a inquiry might have? Is this going to turn into a really major area research, or would this likely be a smaller issue for a legal firm?
Thank you, Chair. So this would be a project that I would take on personally, as this is not something that was considered within the work plan for the Planning and Development Department. I don't believe it will be a significant amount of work. In terms of the scope, what I'm hearing from the committee is that they would like to understand the extent of the authorities of the regional district to have a tree bylaw, and what tools are available. As Mr. Daniluz mentioned, that there are tools to address the needs of communities. Beyond that, any further extensive research in terms of doing background research on what other communities have, and what have you, would probably fall outside of the scope of what we're able to do in 2022. But I'm certainly willing to reach out to our lawyers and get some clarity around the legislation and what they might be able to provide.
Good, thank you. So sounds like we have a plan. Any other discussion?
Davidson?
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Dr. Davidson?
So I'm just wondering, I guess through the staff, would it ease the road in any way to have an amendment to this motion just to say within electoral areas instead of within electoral area C?
If that's the desire of the committee, we'd be happy to entertain that amendment.
And then in that case, I would like to propose that amendment that we change it, the last 3 words from electoral area C to within electoral areas.
Good, thank you, Director Davidson. Looking for a seconder. Director Stobart seconds. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, all in favor, contrary, motion carries. And so we're back to the main motion again. Any discussion? Director Dixon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a problem with, I guess, finding out the information, but I think we do have a work plan, and every time we kind of go sideways or something new comes up, it pushes something else off or off to the side. And I guess I would not want that to be happening with this, with our work plan. I realize Area H did that, I think, in the last meeting, but that came with a cost as well. So this is something that I don't really know in my area what the interest is. I've got a lot of crown land, but Cul-de-sac Park Board already has a tree cutting bylaw. So I'm not really looking to start going into people's private properties and tell them what they can and can't do, but I'm okay to get the information, go from there.
Good, thank you, Director Dixon. Any further discussion? Hearing none on the motion, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
Thank you. So 6.1, we have a 2021 grant and aid financial accountability reporting. It's an information item, but staff are happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move forward.
6.2 is a 2022 grant and aid request for the Creekside Mills at Cultus Lake in Electoral Area H.
For a motion, Director Dixon moves, second, Director Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
6.3, 2022 grant and aid request for Cultus Lake Park Board Electoral Area H.
Move Director Dixon, second Director Adamson, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
7.1, we have a development variance application 2022-06 to reduce the rear and interior side lot line setbacks at 8829 Maderas Road in Electoral Area G.
Director Stobart moves, second Director Dixon, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
7.2 is an application for development variance permit 2022-07 to reduce the rear lot line setback for a new single-family dwelling at 44149 Malcolm Road in Electoral Area C.
Motion, Director Bales moves, second Director Stobart. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
7.3 is development variance application 2022-08 to reduce the front and side setbacks at 20748 Edelweiss Drive in Hemlock Valley, Electoral Area C.
Motion, move Director Bales, second Director Adamson, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
7.4, we have a special event permit for Around the Lake Trail Race in Electoral Area H.
for a motion. Director Dixon moves, second Director Adamson, discussion, Director Dixon.
Thanks for bringing this forward. Just if I could, a reminder, I didn't actually see it in the list, but just getting information out to people as far as traffic control, and that the road could be slow on in certain spots on those days. Those are usually the things that come forward to me as people are caught off guard. So hopefully we can get lots of heads up about this.
Good, thank you, Director Dixon. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, contrary, motion carries.
8.1, we have the Union of British Columbia Municipalities Province's Authority for Orphan Dykes. There's a motion for your consideration.
Okay, for mover, Director Stobart moves, second Director Bales. Any discussion? Director Stobart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly happy to see this move forward. With all the orphan dykes, I know the one in Area G has been a concern a couple times. One of the residents took it themselves to do some work on there a number of years ago and at least do a small repair on it. And again, I think there's the opportunity, or not the opportunity, but the possibility of many more orphan dykes being created in the next little while. I think anything we can do to bring this to the forefront, I'm very happy with.
Good, thank you, Director Stobart. Any further, yeah, go ahead, Director.
I think we're using the wrong terminology by calling them orphan dykes. The province is not dead. They're deadbeat dads. There's a difference, right? So.
Thank you, Director Adamson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, contrary, the motion carries.
8.2, we have the interim flood support from the province of British Columbia. There's a motion for your consideration.
Okay. Motion moved, Director Dixon, second Director Johnston. Discussion.
Davidson.
Go ahead, Director Davidson.
So I think this one raises a lot of questions for me. And, you know, I tend to look at something like this as being similar to the Community Works Fund in that there's no requirement in the Community Works funds that it go towards a service area. In fact, we hope to have some uses where we see it go very well in the community towards things that have nothing to do with service areas. So, you know, for context, when I look at the staff report that says that there's roughly 4 million in DFAs out there right now, I assume that's all in process. 20% of that 4 million would be 800,000, which is roughly half of the 1.6 million. A flood of what if scenarios start going through my head. For example, what if we spend that 1.6 million in something related to a service area only to have one of the relevant DFAs be denied? So the sense I get is that things are very much in flux at the moment, and I'm not sure what the exact restrictions are on this grant. And also for context, and talking with Mr. Chan earlier, he had mentioned that there things were looking favorable towards the province stepping in and spending some money on sedimentation in Hatzic Valley, which is not covered by a service area. So when I look at this grant and I do the math and I think, well, is this grant intended to cover that or not? And what if one of the DFAs doesn't go through or not? And also at LMLGA at Whistler, a provincial cabinet minister, not to be honest, I forget the name, but made some comment about we may see a shift in that 80-20 percentage where that 20% gets lowered. So I'm nervous about pre-allocating this anywhere unless I know more about the overall picture. And that has to include non-service area related activities as well. So I'm wondering if staff can shed any light on this. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Director Davidson. So we'll look to staff.
Sure, I'll start and then perhaps Mr. Daniluz would like to jump in. So absolutely, Director Davidson, you're quite correct. There was an announcement by the province of British Columbia that there is an intention to change the 80-20 formula to 90-10. So 10% would be borne by the local government or the service area for the works that would be in question. At this point in time, we have not seen anything in writing or in regulation that shows evidence of that intention. And so we're taking a conservative approach, assuming that we're still in a 20% funding requirement. The goal here with these funds is to get the best bang for our buck. And one of the requirements on the funds is that they cannot be used for projects for which other funding mechanisms are available, whether that be private insurance or through DFA. So absolutely, staff recognize that there could be quite a bit of money left over for non-service area related items. However, it would be our recommendation that we address the service area gaps first. So for example, if a project comes forward even at 90-10 and there are only 5 properties available to fund that 10%, that could be quite a significant impact on the taxpayer, and we would be able to use these funds to ease that burden. We feel that that is the most appropriate use of the funds at the outset, but we're not in any rush to start initiating projects where we have no certainty around the status of a DFA application or where other funding isn't already clear. So we just wanted to establish a framework and get some feedback from the committee about going forward. We want to make sure that the FVRD is as whole as possible and that your taxpayers are protected to the best of their ability. But certainly, yes, we do think that there could be some opportunities for non-service area projects. We're also hearing from the province that there could be more funding made available. There may be projects where they take on that responsibility, such as in the sedimentation area. So there's still many days ahead of us, but we wanted just to get an initial feedback from the committee and the board on the prioritization of these funds.
Sure, a follow-up, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Director Davidson.
So, Ms. Kinman, did I hear you correctly? I thought I heard you say that one of the criteria for this grant is that cannot be used for something that a DFA is in play for already. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Director Davidson, my understanding, and perhaps Mr. Daniluz can speak to this, but it would be for that 80%. So we wouldn't be, if there's an project where that 80% is eligible, then we wouldn't be using the funds for that 80%, but it would be eligible for the 20%. But perhaps Mr. Daniluz can weigh in on that.
Ms. Kinman, through the chair, only to confirm that that's indeed the case. These funds could be used to cover the local government share of DFA projects that's not covered by the provincial DFA.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Daniluz, and thank you, Director Davidson. Any other discussion regarding this item?
Dixon.
Yeah, go ahead, Director
Thank
Dixon.
you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions with this, I guess. I've also got Belgrove Creek berm in my area that does not have a service area that may or may not need repair. But I guess long term, is there an intention? I mean, so we could repair the dikes or maybe repair the berm. Would the follow up then be that there's actually some kind of service area put in place or do we just assume that if we have another, well, we're hoping we don't get one like we've had, but there will probably be some other storm. Like, do we just keep repairing them, that kind of thing? I guess that's sort of what my question is.
Through the chair to Director Dixon, no, I don't believe that there is any intention that you would go ahead and create a service area unless that was a desire. But therein lies some of the complications related to prioritizing non-service area related items, identifying who it's actually benefiting, what authorities you would have to get in order to do the works. So it's just another layer of complication, not one that we're not unwilling to go forward with, of course, but again, we're just trying to prioritize the areas for which you already have taxpayer monies going towards.
Good. Thank you, Director Dixon. Any further discussion?
Davidson.
Yeah, go ahead, Director Davidson.
And yeah, thanks for bearing with me. I still struggle with that concept that you've got a grant from the province coming our way, which is not restricted to specific service areas. Yet we're going to prioritize it towards those service areas in topping up, what will hopefully what may go from a 20% to a 10% share, while at the same time other residents, just by virtue of not being in a service area, looks like they're, call it maybe not out of luck, but lower down on the priority list. And I realized to try to unwrinkle that at this point and come up with something that you could sit back at and look at and say that's equitable as opposed to simple, is very challenging. But I guess I'm just looking for staff. My expectation is that at least half of that money should be left over. If there's 4 million of DFAs outstanding and we got a 1.6 million grant, 20% of that is 800K. So I'd certainly be looking to have at least half of that, well, approximately half of that left by the time our DFAs are done. And I can't envision any circumstance in which that would change based on everything I've heard. So I think I'm okay with supporting the motion if I get some sort of assurance from staff that if things start getting out of hand, just dealing with the service areas, and that you need more than half of that 1.6 million to get to where you need to be, then it comes back to us for further discussion. Because I think at that point, I don't know if the DFA was too light or that it does become appropriate for ratepayers to shoulder some of the load. I don't know, but I think it is important to keep that reserve in mind for non-service area related requests. Does that make sense, staff?
Yep. Thank you,
Yep.
Director Davidson. Staff?
Yeah, through the chair to Director Davidson. Absolutely. I did note actually in the report that the intention would be for staff to bring status updates to the committee and board on a regular basis. And that was exactly the reason that we wanted to do that. As these wrinkles start becoming less wrinkled and we receive information around our DFA application and the scale and scope of some of these projects becomes more clear, then we'll be able to start having those conversations with you about prioritizing non-service area related projects.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Davidson. Thank you, staff. Okay, turn things back to Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you, Chair. We'd just
Oh,
be
is
looking
it-
for a vote on the
Okay,
motion.
Thank you. All those in favor? Contrary. Motion carries. Thank you.
So moving down to item 11, which is reports by electoral area directors.
Okay, and Director Makahani, this is when each electoral area director is given an opportunity to speak to any issues that have come up in their area that they'd like to make the committee aware of. So we'll start off with Director Adams.
Yeah, thank you. Well, trying to get the Yale Community Center up and active again. It's hard to do after you've been stopped for a couple of years. Everybody gets kind of lazy. We do have this Sunday, there's a class for painting like Bob Ross, somebody comes in and says, put a cloud here, and they all put the cloud there. And they've had that twice before, and it's really something they enjoy. So the ratepayers are paying half the price, and it's $20 for the person to show up and get the lesson and walk home with a painting. And then the kids, we're doing one for the kids with no cost. They can come and do a Bob Ross painting and go home with a painting as well. We're starting to, the thrift stores open and doing well. And on the 22nd, if you're up in my area, drop by. I think it's 1 to 4, we're gonna have pulled pork and, just a, a party kind of thing. Also, I talked to Telus when I was up in Whistler at the conference. Last time when they put in the phone coverage into Yale, we were going to have a celebration party because it's economic development, it's safety, it's all that. So it didn't come to happen because at that time, the MLA at the time resigned from cabinet, and so they didn't think they would have the coverage with the press. So we didn't do it that time, but we're going to do one now. We're going to invite all the people that in the area that it covers, and up to the community center. Telus is going to be there. We'll have some prizes, well, some food, and just a celebration that we're now they're bringing us into the latest century. We'll be just like the big city folks in Hope. We'll be able to get our stuff like that, right? So that's really good. Everybody's excited about that. What else do we do? Sunshine Valley, the Tasby's open Saturdays and Sundays, 10 to 4. The Yale Museum opens on the weekends as well. I think Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're open. Just started. And I can't think of anything else right now, but thanks.
Good. Thank you, Director Adamson. Director Stober.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not a whole lot. Like Director Addison said, it's nice to have the community getting together again and starting to do things. Our local service clubs have been able to get out and do some much needed fundraising over the last few weeks again. So that's always welcomed by many in the community. And I'd also like to this opportunity to thank our FDRD staff and Lacoma First Nation once again. For the first time in 5.5 months, we were able to drive down Taylor Road without driving through a private yard. And I'd certainly like to also thank Rick and Susan McCamey for being so generous over that time for letting us go through there. So it was a long time coming, but and yeah, I'm not going to say anything else. It's good. I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see it.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Stober. Director Johnston.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I've attended a couple of meetings, one with the Boothroyd Band in wildfire preparedness, and then with the Boston Bar Band at Anderson Creek Longhouse Beyond Borders meeting. We did have an Easter egg hunt as well back in April, the long weekend. And that was sponsored by the Boston Bar North Bend Enhancement Society and the Lions Club from Hope, the bingo dollars. And I guess about 100 people showed up with kids and parents, and 600 eggs were hidden and found in about 10 minutes. And then they also served hot dogs. We have a community lunch program that runs on Wednesdays. Also a seniors supper that happens on Thursdays, and then bingo, Lions bingo follows if people want to stay, or so people are able to again socialize, which of course, like everybody else, we haven't done for a couple of years. And then we do have local musicians that have been getting together again at the North Bend Hall to play music and sing, and all seniors. And we do have a couple of rather critical issues in our area, but the engineering department here is taking good care of that. So I guess that's about it. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. You've been busy, Director Johnson. That's a real community you have up there. Hi. Director Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, there was really awesome work going on for the Lakeside Trail this last couple of days. So it's huge thanks to Megan Stewart and Mike Neal that for sure. I've seen them out there with shovels and gravel and some brooms and all the rest of it, just continuing to build a little more of the trail. So this trail is on the north end, coming from Sunnyside Campground. around where the condos are to Entrance Bay is the plan. We're not quite there, but it looked really great when I came in today. So thanks to that. I've been really impressed with the work that's going on with Fire Smart. We had our Area H session a couple of Saturdays ago, and it was people came out and tried to learn a little bit more on how to keep their places safe, and that's what we're wanting, just to get that word out. I think it's important that everybody can do a little something around their place, and every little bit makes a difference. And then the other night there was a Zoom session as well that I had some really positive feedback that I shared with Andrew and Bruce. So that's Fire Smart. So I think that there's more, and it's a great message for our community as well. Recently had a summer planning meeting with Highways and RCMP and Cul-de-sac Park Board and City of Chilliwack and several others, just around preparing for the visitors that will come up in the summer. It's been pretty busy right now, but starting on the long weekend in May, it usually picks up a bit. So again, there's plans around signage, letting people know there's congestion, park in the legal spaces only. Modi is looking at some more permanent delineators, so not quite sure what will happen there. There will be something in place for July 1st, and we'll go there. I've also worked with our work with the City of Tourism Chilliwack with our stewardship committee. They've just launched on their website a new messaging, which I believe is part of the stewardship from definitely Area H and Area E. We'll take some of the credit, and their messaging is protecting this gift, and that was certainly the concern with over I guess subscribing the cul-de-sac anyway, is there's lots of visitors come, but so protecting this gift is just messaging to ask people to be prepared, be respectful, be safe, and leave it enriched. So it's great to have them on board with us, and I think that will be as time goes by, really important message to continue as well. We're opening up also, and it really is great to see some of the planning that's going on. There was an Easter egg hunt and a little Easter gathering with a petting zoo at Columbia Valley Ratepayers Association. And they're excited that we can finally have the hall open and move forward from there. But there's also plans, Cul-de-sac Park Board, I know are busy getting ready with Cul-de-sac Days. We've got the Pike Minnow Derby coming up. So it's fun. Stay tuned. There'll be lots more to share. Thank you.
Director Dixon is busy always. Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Director Macahonic.
Well, thank you. So we had our Fire Smart event, and the Chilliwack River Valley Fire Department did a great job, and it was really great that we had a covered area on Thompson Park because it hailed like heck, and we had a lot of people out. It was really nice to see too. I really was good for the heart to see neighbors I hadn't seen for a long time. So really nice. I attended the river cleanup. Like the items that sort of stood out for me in my collection was a fire extinguisher and a big whiteboard. So kind of different items. So the Post Creek AGM is coming up May 22nd. And there is going to be, I was at the ratepayers. I'm part of the ratepayers for Chilliwack River Valley, and there's going to be some people that from Handsome Road area are going to be having a media event on Monday regarding the slide, and so they're talking about that. So people are displaced or they're in their homes and not deemed safe. So that's that. And yeah, it's been really interesting to be a part of this. So thank you.
Good. Sounds like you have a good understanding of the Chilliwack River Valley. So thank you. And Director Bales.
Hi. So we had a great DeRoche Farmers Market, the first one, and they will be at 10 to 2 every Saturday. And we had a good Fire Smart meeting, and ACES is starting a garden. So that's something to look forward to. And I guess I had my first meeting with Sergeant, the Lieutenant of the RCMP. And he's just getting up to speed. He's only been working for about 6 or 7 weeks. So he was asking me more questions than the other way around, which is a little bit odd, but so I gave him a few tidbits, but it will be better in about couple months. And so anyway, that's about it.
Good. Thank you, Director Beals. That's a new sergeant at Mission RCMP. Is that right?
Yeah,
Because part of your area is covered by Agassiz, isn't it?
yeah.
Good.
So,
Thank you,
yeah.
Beals, and we'll look to Director Davidson.
Thank you, Chair. So just picking up on Director Bale's comment, I also have a meeting upcoming with him. He's the new officer in charge of Mission RCMP Detachment. Inspector Ted Luco is his name. He's been reaching out to all the essentially North Shore electoral area directors for one-on-ones, and good on him for doing that. I haven't had mine with him yet, but that'll come up in June. So what can I share? So we also had their Fire Smart webinar. It was very well done, and I'm hoping that there's a recording of it. One thing that surprised me at the time was that there wasn't a lot of people on it. It was really well done, but not that many people on the call. And I think if we had a recording of it, I'd push that link out on my email distribution list and just remind people of it, because I think it's all sorts of great information that's there. The Whistler conference was really good. I had more FaceTime with our telecoms in the lobby of the Westin Hotel at Whistler than I had in the last 4 years, and it was productive. And also our ratepayers is back in action again after a couple of years of hibernation. They had their AGM face to face, so a lot of people hadn't seen for a while, and some new faces as well. So things are picking up again, looking good. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Director Davidson. And in the Popcom area, we've got a lot of, we have many pipeliners in the community right now, but there hasn't been a lot of havoc created so far. We have a lot of excavators and developers and a lot of new homes coming our way, but it'll look nice in the end. Otherwise, it's been quiet and I have nothing else to report, and we'll look to Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you. So item 12 is public question period for items relevant to the agenda. We'll just turn things to Jamie Van Ness.
Thank you. We don't have anybody joining us in the boardroom today in public. We do have one member of the public on the line today through Zoom. I see a Diane. This would be your opportunity to ask a question relevant to the agenda. Just hit that raise hand function. Just while we provide an opportunity for that, I'll just note that we have not received any emails or any questions for the committee. And it would appear that there are no questions.
Good.
So thank you. Then we would just be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Good. Short and sweet. Thank you, everyone. Motion to adjourn. Move Director Adams, second Director Stowart. All in favor. Contrary motion carries. Thank you, staff. Thank you, directors.
Thanks all.